Hi, everyone. We're just going to wait a few minutes for everyone to get into the room. This is our first hangout. Andrew, would you like to say hi?
Hi, guys.
I'm just going to double check here just to make sure everything's running smoothly in the back end. All right. So we're going to start with just a few polls. I just want to see how did you guys hear about this and where are you from? If you could look on the right side, I'm going to load our first poll. And the question is going to be, how did you hear about this webinar? And you can just answer by clicking on the option that suits you best of how you heard about our webinar. It might take about 30 seconds. There might be a delay with the polls and questions as well. So if you have a question, as soon as you have it, be sure to enter it in the chat box. And if you guys want, you can say hi in the chat box just to let us know that you're here. All right, someone heard about it because of me. Cool. And if you guys could just say in the chat box, maybe, if you can hear us perfectly, if there's any issues, let me know. If there's not, just say everything's okay. Just want to make sure everything's running smoothly since this is our first hangout. All right, anyone else for the poll? Just if you just came in, we just want to know how you heard about this webinar. So if you could answer the poll question on the right side. And then I'm going to move into the next question. All right. Thank you guys for voting. The next poll is just going to be about who you are, just so that it can gauge us in terms of where we go with our conversation when Andrew's talking, when we're starting. All right, so who are you? Just answer on the right side. DJ only, producer only, DJ and producer, are you a manager, are you a PR agent, are you part of the media, or are you just here because you love EDM? And go ahead and vote. All right. Votes are coming in. All right. Looks like people here because they love EDM mostly. And we also have a manager on board. All right. Very cool. All right, Andrew, you hear that? So we got a manager here and we got people who just love EDM. So our question and answer can be geared a little bit more towards them. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for answering the poll. We're going to get into, first, Andrew's going to talk a little bit about his story, how he started. He's done a bunch in EDM. And then we're going to go into some questions that I have written down to kind of guide us. And then at the end, we're going to do Q&A. And make sure you stay on for our bonus that we're going to be offering. All right, so Andrew, you can take it away from here. Introduce yourself and tell us about your story.
Hi, everybody. So I started off as just a raver, like most everyone else did, about 2008. Doing shows. In 2010, we started a weekly here on the West Coast in California called Womp Wednesdays. And that went for about 2 years strong. And we decided to move on. So I ended up moving to Miami. And that's where I first got into press. Started working with Music You Need, Miami New Times, and things like that. About a year after that, I decided that I wanted to start an artist management company, with all the contacts that I had gathered over the years. And I did a lot of research for tax reasons and things like that. And Vegas is the best place for taxes, period. So I moved there 2014. I was there for the whole year, got it started up, got our licenses and our first set of artists, and moved back to San Francisco. That's kind of the short story. I also do work for DJ Magazine. I work with Denice as well with her magazine, and I also am the editor of Till 8 magazine. Does anybody have any questions?
If you do, you can just ask him in the chat box. Oh, we got some people. Maritza said, I'm a promoter. I'm currently studying entertainment business and would like to get into the managing marketing business. Thanks for doing this webinar. You're welcome. Thanks for coming. I can't hear you and see you perfect. It's coming through fine. Okay. If you're having problems, maybe try logging in and out again. And then if you're still having problems, just let us know in the comment box if you've solved the problem or not. Matt said it's coming through fine. And Maritza said hello again. So, all right. So yeah, if you have any questions, there is a delay on the chat box. So try to put your question in a little bit before you have the question in terms of wanting an immediate reply. Just let you guys know there's a delay. All right, so back to you, Andrew.
I pretty much told the summary.
Okay.
Is there anything else you wanted me to touch base on in regards to that?
Well, if anyone has any questions about your history, they can put in the chat box. I know a lot about your history already, so I don't necessarily have any questions on that, but we can dive right into the questions that I have for you in terms of more of the artist management and promotion stuff. So my first question is, what do you look for in an artist? And you can talk about the artists that you manage.
The first thing I looked for when I started was I wasn't really looking. I was kind of just trying to pick people up. That's a big no-no. Don't do that. Because chances are if you do that, you don't do your research and you're just picking up an artist to pick up an artist, it's not gonna work. Mm-hmm. So I ended up having problems with my first couple artists because I just wanted to start and I wait. And they only lasted about 2 months before we parted ways. So my advice would be to, number one, look at their media. What does their image look like? What kind of things are they posting? How many fans do they have? What's their interaction? And number two, most important, is the music. If you do not believe in their music, you should not sign them. Even if it's good music. Maybe you just don't like that genre. You still shouldn't sign them because they work well together if you don't like the music they make.
Yeah, I guess for me, I would add to that, you know, they have to also have a passion for it. I kind of managed an artist a little while ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and I would say that the biggest problem there was, you know, I really wanted them to be successful. I wanted them to be an A-list DJ, and they really kind of just wanted to keep it as a hobby and just play on the weekends. So you want to make sure that you're really lining up with your goals and what you guys want to accomplish. Would you agree with that, Andrew?
Absolutely. And another big thing is they should want it just as much as you do.
Right. If you
want it more than them, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, that was the problem that I ran into. So I can totally relate with you on that one. How should an artist approach a potential manager? Like for you, example, how would you want someone to approach you? What should they say?
For me, personally, I normally don't take unsolicited demos. If they do want to approach me, I will listen. But there's a couple things you're going to have to do. I get emails all the time saying, oh, check out my music, you should manage me. I'm just going to delete that email. I'm not even going to look at it. What you want to do is you want to email me, give me a little bit of your history, talk a little bit about yourself. Make sure you stay humble when you do that. I don't want you don't want to come off like, I've been doing this for 2 years and I'm a superstar. Because if that were the case, then you would already have a manager. So just send your social media, maybe a link to your 2 best tracks that are originals, And you always want to have originals. You want to just have bootlegs and mashups and edits, and try to get a manager because they're not even going to respond to you. And that's pretty big for the most part in this industry. If you're not sending an email or coming off in a professional manner, most times, 9 times out of 10, they will not even respond to your email and they're just going to delete it.
Mm-hmm.
So always put as much information in there as you can, and also know, are you ready for a manager yet? How long have you been doing this? What's your following on Facebook? How many followers do you have on Twitter and SoundCloud? Do you have any tracks on a label yet? If you're just starting, you're better off without a manager until you build up some following and some noise. And then most of the times the managers will come to you.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the booking agency.
So in terms of what else, I know you kind of listed what you look for, but when do you think is the exact appropriate time to look for a manager? Is there like a specific time where, like, let's say you have a hit song that, they think is really good and they want to bring it to a label? Like, do you like bringing the artist to a label, or do you think it's, they need to kind of be on a label before you'd start managing someone?
I would say you should have some music out first. Always have some music out first. I don't think there's a specific right time to have a manager. It's really all based on what you have going on and how much you've accomplished so far.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, just how do you usually determine whether someone has fake fans or followers? That's pretty easy. If you see them, let's say they got 200,000 likes on Facebook, just as an example, and they're only getting 1 or 2 likes per post, those are all fake fans. It's really easy to spot.
Yeah.
You just look for their interaction based on their likes. How many people are talking about it? How many comments are they getting? If they, it's a ratio. You've got to gauge it together. So it has to match. And if it doesn't, they're not always fake. But if you've got a really high number, normally they are.
Yeah,
And it's the same thing with SoundCloud. And I look at comments on SoundCloud. If I see comments and it says, "Oh, great track, banging track, banger, fire," those are almost all fake.
Right. There's a lot of bots that you can purchase just, easily, that they'll just comment one words. I know on Instagram especially, there's bots that will like anything that has a certain tag. So for example, like hashtag EDM or hashtag house. Every time I post for EDM World Magazine, so many times I get the same artists who like my page within like a minute, less than a minute, and I know that that's a bot. Now, that can be useful to grow your fan base, but to only use that and not really engage with your fans, I think, is a huge mistake. And what I've seen on Twitter especially is that if DJs and producers are posting on there and there's no shares, there's no comments, there's no nothing, then typically their fan base is not real, because someone who has 10,000 followers, which is what we're getting close to right now on Twitter, I mean, every post we make gets at least, I would say 2 to 10, some type of either favorite, retweet, comment. There is some engagement, even with our minimal followers. We're not at that level with big artists yet, but we do get engagement. And so that, that's definitely a good way to look. Jeff, we'll get to your question later. Another question I wanted to ask.
I already got back to Jeff.
Oh. No, Jeff said, how many artists do you personally manage?
Yeah, I've been private messaging him.
Oh, okay. Well, for everyone else, can you share that so that everyone else can hear your answer?
Yeah, I currently have 5. I will be thinning the herd down to 2 or 3, and the reason for that would be that when I first started, I started with 1 person, and then I started getting really excited, and I just started picking people up, and that's fine if you have a huge. I don't necessarily have a huge team, so I'm doing most of the work for all 5 of these artists, and I've learned it's not really a good idea. It spreads you too thin. versus being able to focus on 2 or 3 where you can put all your time into them. If you have more than that, it becomes you got to stay up 24/7, and you don't have time for any of them because you're splitting all your attention between 5 people. So if, as a manager, if I were to start over and I would have known that, I would have only picked up 2 to begin with. I would always say don't take on more than you can handle, and of course you do want time for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have these artists, know that you're going to spend most of your phone and computer and talking to people. You're not going to be able to go out and hang out with your friends. That's a sacrifice you will know you have to make.
Yeah.
David has a question.
Yeah, David said, how do you go out right? Meaning, if starting when is right time to release music, and how do you keep it new? That's a hard question.
That's a really hard question to answer, yeah. When is the right time to start? Personally, I would say the best time to start would have been 4 years ago before it blew up. But there really is no right time to start because this industry changes every week. It's not like or hip hop or jazz or whatever else you may listen to. It kind of has a steady flow of how things sound and how things work, and it evolves very slowly over time. Dance music evolves by the week. I don't know if you know a lot of the genres, but house used to be just house. There never used to be progressive house, electro house, deep house, future house, and the lines between genres are now being so blurred that it's hard to even describe it. A lot of deep house doesn't even sound like deep house anymore. It sounds like a groovy, upbeat electro track, but it's not. So the best way to keep it new is to just follow the trend. Watch what people are making, and decide what you think the next thing is going to be yourself. Mm-hmm. Don't just go and look, okay, Martin Garrix made a hit track, I'm going to go make a track like that. Because by the time you get noticed by a track by that, you're going to be a year behind already. You want to always adapt. So but put your own twist on it. Maybe it's an electro house track, but make it sound a little bouncy, or make it sound a little down tempo. Make it your own. Don't follow the herd, because that's the common conception. Oh, I'm going to make a Martin Garrix track, or oh, I'm going to make a Tiesto track and I'm going to get famous. No, you won't, because that's already been done. Mm-hmm. You need to do something new.
Yeah, and also I think you really have to stick to your brand, stick to who you are, stick to the music that you like, what speaks to you most. I think the biggest mistake people make, exactly what Andrew is saying, is that they just follow what's hot now. And by the time your track might come out, it might have already passed you. And it always goes in cycles, different genres. So, I think the most successful artists are the ones that really stick to what they know and what they're good at. And that eventually, if you keep working on what you're good at and what someone's gonna notice you. And someone like Andrew is looking for these artists that are undiscovered, have amazing music. They stick to their formula. They know what works for them, and
they don't sound like everybody else.
Right. Really, it's like, what makes you unique? What makes you stand out? I think it's super important. And you said, okay, so meaning it's starting. When is the right time? And how do you keep it new? I think keeping it new is really difficult to answer, because that's all in the really production phase. But I would say, get inspiration from different areas. Listen to different genres that have nothing to do with dance music. I've heard some really cool sounds that, are inspired by like Indian music, tribal music. There's so much that you can really do with just being inspired from other areas and bringing it into your own sound. So that would be my advice on how to keep it new.
I'm going to go back to Marissa because we have a question. But before we do that, let me just add one more thing to keeping it new.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize that the tracks that got now are actually old tracks. Those are made 1 to 3 years ago. Has anybody heard, what's a good example? Martin Garrix's Animals. Let's just use that because I'm sure everybody knows what that is. That was done 2 years before it was released, and it was already signed.
Mm-hmm.
They sat on it until it would be hot, until, okay, now this would work, and then they released it. So just know that the stuff you're hearing now is the stuff that was hot for the producers 2 to 3 years ago. Gold Skies was done 4 years ago. The Martin Garrix and Sandra Van Jorn track, 4 years ago. Just released, mid-June of last year?
Yeah, last year.
Somewhere around that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So come on, when you're making music, you always want to be looking forward, not behind. What do you think is going to be hot next? That's how you have to approach it.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Next question. I want to ask you actually a question from my list. What are the top 3 skills you must have to become an artist manager? So if someone was looking to do what you're doing, what are the top skills that they must have?
You need to be a really good people person. You need to be able to stay humble, and you have to have a passion for it and be able to go out and talk to people, even if you may not like them. It's really all actions and how you talk to people. This industry is give and take. A lot of people make, oh, my artist is the shit. You should sign him or let him play. Or you always want to approach them first, asking them what you can do for them. Build a relationship with these people, become friends with them, and that's when you're going to get the results.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. You're going to be getting such a better reaction and result if you ask others, how can I serve you? How can I help you? You're going to create a better relationship that way because you're not coming at them asking for something. And I see this over and over again with the magazine. Artists are always reaching out to me, and no one really ever asks, like, hey, what do you need help with? Or, what type of content do you really need? How can we help you? Going at it from that perspective, it's a totally different conversation than, hey, post my track, listen to my track, here's my link, tell me what you think. I only have so much time, and I need a way to filter out who's good and who's not. And if you're not going to be professional about it, and you're not going to think about what's in it for me, besides just what's in it for you, it's not going to take you very far. So I can relate to that, Andrew. The next question I wanted to ask is, what is the most common problem you run into over and over again? What's that most annoying thing that you're like, oh, I just wish everyone knew this? It just bothers you to no end.
Flyers. People who use the artist logos without permission, or maybe a lot of times people hit me up on Facebook and try and book my artist, and I say, we're open to discussing it. Please send me an email. I don't do any business over Facebook. We'll talk and do whatever on Facebook, but any official business goes through email. That way there's a record of it, and I don't have to scroll through a million messages. And then a lot of times after these conversations, you're like, yeah, sure, I'm open to it. Send me an email. They'll post a link, tag me, tag my artist, and put a flyer that looks like it was done in 10 seconds and say they're booked. And that happens all the time. That's the most annoying thing ever.
Yeah, I could imagine. Sometimes I get artists who send me their stuff, and the artwork is just terrible. I'm like, you've got to look good. And if you don't talk to other people who are involved and you don't communicate and agree on things and you just start posting stuff, that's not a good look for you. That's not going to help anyone. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, Andrew. That's a funny one. What are some tips you can give to get press or to pay attention to artists and get a response?
Are we talking about trying to get an artist an interview or an article? Something like that?
Right, yeah, for press. What are some tips that you can give artists who are looking to gain more exposure using press and blogs?
That's actually really hard in the beginning, because a lot of people go into it just send out press releases to these blogs. Mm-hmm. Didn't get any responses. And then I started receiving all these press releases and realized, wow, they get hundreds of these a day. No wonder. The best way to do it's the same thing. Make friends with them. Don't talk to them about just make friends with them, build a relationship, and then it can be hitting them up on Facebook one day, hey, my artist has this new track coming out. Is it possible to do an article? Oh, sure, yeah. Anything. You always want to make friends with them first. That goes with anything. It's all about relationships. It's not even really about how much money you have. If you have the relationships, let's just say an example, being homeless to being a millionaire in a couple months. If you don't, you could have all the money in the world and you still won't go anywhere without those relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I would say just it's the same thing with anything. If you want to get booked at a show, go talk to the promoter, maybe show up and support a couple shows first. Get to know them, bring them out for drinks, and then mention, oh, hey, you know, a couple months down the line, oh, sure. And the next thing you know, you're a resident with them and you're playing every week.
Yeah, I found, you know, with some of the bigger clubs, they don't even really take requests. You have to really just know someone in order to be a headliner, or, I mean, not even a headliner to start, but to be an opener. You have to know someone, and they're not going to waste their time going through requests when they can easily just book their friends or book someone that already has, you know, sold out venues like Calvin Harris. I mean, that's like a no-brainer. They're going to book them. So when it's someone new and they're going to take a risk, I mean, they're going to take a risk on someone they have a relationship with, not just some random person. So I think that's relationship is the most important.
That's another big no-no that Denice just touched base on. Do not ever, unless you know someone at that club and you know them well, don't ever send them unsolicited emails, because if you do that prematurely, you will never get booked there. Especially the bottle service clubs like Avalon, Hakkasan, Light, Pasha, and things like that. The bigger ones, you don't ever want to do that, because the second you do that is the second you burn that bridge before you crossed it.
And why? Can you explain a little bit more about why that's a bad thing to do? Like, what do they put you on, like a you're not book list or something?
Yeah, they can put a blacklist. That's a real thing.
Yeah.
The reason they do that is because they get so many emails and calls and texts from people they don't know to book them in a club. And honestly, if they're not asking you to play, then they're not interested anyways.
Mm-hmm.
If they want you to play, and these are clubs specifically, I'm not speaking on, you know, events or things like that. Normally, if a club is ready to start booking you, they will let you know. It's the same thing with a booking agent. They'll contact you. It's one of those things, you don't contact a club unless you know someone. Then you've got an in. But it's better to wait and focus on your music and building your fan base, because when your music is at the right place, you'll start getting the bookings. Mm-hmm. It'll happen on its own.
Yeah. Let's see. My last question. What are the top tools you use on a daily basis to stay on track and be organized?
Say that one more time.
What are the top tools that you use on a daily basis to stay on track and organized, since you have a few artists that you're managing?
For me, really my organization is just Notepad on my Windows computers and my Gmail. Anytime I have a task that I need to do, I'll myself an email reminding me, you know, talk to this person, put all the information in, and then I look at my email every morning, and that's my to-do list. It's in my email. And that way, you know, when I'm checking my emails throughout the day and in the morning, I still have it in my face. So it's not like it's going to be in a notepad somewhere or buried in, like, you know, a notepad in my phone or something. I'm always going to see it, always checking my emails. Mm-hmm. So it's whatever works for you, though. If you want to put notes in your phone or use Google Calendar, you just have to find what works for you. I think it's different for everybody.
Okay. David asks, Okay, so if I've been trying to do my own thing already, how many tracks to drop? I mean, I would say to answer that, it's not really like there's a magic number or there's a magic formula. I think that you want to really have quality music consistently out. I would try and shoot for a new track out once a month, once every month and a half, if possible. Even if you're just doing like remixes or bootlegs, having something new out is going to help, bring that consistency that you need as an artist and really keep yourself in the faith of your fans and potential people who, like Andrew, might want to find you to manage you. What would be your answer to that, Andrew?
The same thing, but I would add that before you start releasing things on your SoundCloud and YouTube and wherever else, make sure it's 100% work. Don't throw something together and release it just because you haven't put something up in 2 months. You'll get better at it over time, obviously, but if a big thing that labels do is they'll go and look at the very first track you ever posted on SoundCloud and most recent one. And if they're not both amazing, they won't look at anything in between. They'll just stop. So the trick is to have every single thing you release sound really good. You want to be 100% happy. You don't just want to release it because I don't have it up, so I'm going to put it out. Another thing, don't post work in progress things on your Facebook or SoundCloud. Wait until the track's done and then get your friends' opinions and then post it. But don't do the breakdown and be like, oh, check out this breakdown of this track, because it's going to get really annoying for people if they keep seeing you do that.
Yeah. Actually, Andrew and I were kind of debating this earlier. I personally don't like previews. I know a lot of artists will post a preview, just like a 1 minute clip or 1 minute and 30 clip. And while I guess it could be good for promotion wise and like creating hype, I personally just don't like it because you're going to be posting the full track most likely within the next day or so. And you're probably going to want to delete the preview. So all those views that you got, all those comments, all that reaction, it's probably going to go away. And you're going to lose those initial reactions in your long, full-length track. So that's my point of view on it. Andrew, you can talk about your side and what you're doing and what you think.
I mean, you're right. I think you're right and you're not right. At the same time, it really depends on the artist and what they're doing at the time. For most of my guys, we don't do previews.
Right.
I completely agree with you. I really only do previews with the smaller guys that I have, just as a way to start building hype. But once that hype's been built and we've got the momentum, absolutely never do previews. She's right. Because it just annoys people. And you will lose more of a fun you'll gain in the long run. It's a good build-up technique, but once you've made enough fans, you shouldn't have to put up a preview. You should be able to just put up the track and say, here it is, and people will be on it just immediately because they're already following you.
Yeah. David asked a really good question. What should I look for in a manager?
Well, it really depends on what you're doing yourself, what kind of music you're making, and who you get along with, because you want to be able to get along with your manager. If you don't get along with your manager and you can't listen or agree with your manager, then it'll never work. Some of the main things you should look for, though, make sure they have, vet them, make sure they have the connections they say they do, and maybe do a 1 month trial run with them before signing, or a 3 month trial one, whatever you feel comfortable with. But it's a hard question because a lot of times when a manager may approach you, you may not know who they are. So how are you going to know what they're capable of? It's kind of sometimes a risk you have to take. And the first time you sign, I would never sign over a 8-year contract unless it's somebody like Scooter Braun's trying to sign you. Is managing Martin Garrix and Justin Bieber and all these guys, then absolutely. But you kind of just have to feel it out. There's really no way to judge that. Of course, you can ask them the questions, but how do you know if they're telling the truth or not?
Well, I would say maybe, ask for some of the other artists that they've been managing and contact them and say, I'm potentially looking to be having this guy as my manager. How's your relationship been? How is he working wise? What are some things I might be running into working with him? What are his strengths? What are his weaknesses? I think going to a third party is good because they're going to tell you the truth. They have no reason to lie. And if they do lie, then, that's on them. But most likely they're going to tell you the truth. People are pretty upfront about that. And also, like what Andrew was saying, personality-wise, you definitely have to get along with them. There's been people in the past that I've tried to work with, and, our personalities clashed. And, but even though we both had the best intentions, it wasn't an easy relationship. It was a lot of work. And, you want the relationship to be easy. You don't want it to be constantly bickering and fighting. You just want it to flow. You want to be able to focus on the business and really make sure that it is about the business, and that, the personal issues and whatnot don't get involved, because that can be really detrimental. I know.
The biggest mistake is when you let your friends manage you. Don't ever do that.
Mm-hmm.
Not only will that ruin the friendship, but you're not going to be able to hold a professional relationship with these people, because you guys are both going to be letting each other get away with murder because you're already friends. So It's like, oh, don't worry about it. Oh, next time. Oh, we made a mistake this time. You don't want to do that. Tour managers are great if they're your friends. Perfect. But managers, people that kind of run everything at the top, make sure that it's better to not even have any kind of prior relationship with them, unless it's a business relationship.
Why is it different for a tour manager to be your friend and for your manager not to be your friend? Why do you see those being different?
A tour manager most of the time handle a lot of the business. I'm specifically talking about dance music because tour managers for rock and pop and hip hop are way different. Mm-hmm. All a tour manager doing is making sure things run smoothly when you guys are on the road and out and about.
Right.
And the manager usually is the person sitting back at the house or at the office doing all the actual business. So, I mean, a tour manager could be great if it's your friend, but you also have to know, is he going to get drunk with you? Because the tour manager shouldn't be getting drunk, shouldn't be doing, whatever else the DJs may be doing, should be sober. So definitely pick somebody who you can have fun with, mm-hmm. So be personal.
David asks, what if you have a bigger following in other cities than you start? Should you consult with other locals that you grew up with, I'm assuming? So I think he's asking, what if your following's not from where you are, and let's say you'd have to travel, what should you do?
It's a really tough question. I've never run into that before. I wouldn't know how to answer that. Normally, your following should always start where you are. It normally kind of casts domino effects from where you are outwards. I've never really seen it happening somewhere else.
Well, I do know that sometimes artists, let's say, they're releasing music and their fans might be from another country that really like their music. They might not be connecting, they might not be playing out live, but their music is connecting with another country. And I think that's where analytics is really important, because if you're seeing who is your fan base, where are they from, where do they live, what do they like to do, if you can actually go and talk to that fan and say, hey, contact them and say, I am noticing that there's a lot of fans that are in your area, in your city. What are the venues that I could potentially reach out to book an event there? Because if your analytics are showing you that you have a big market in another city that you don't live in, then it might actually be worth you reaching out to that venue and booking that club, because you can show the club, look, I have a huge fan base. I'm going to be able to draw a big crowd once I start promoting this event. So I know that it does happen. And I would just say that that's my best advice, would be reach out to some of your fans that live there and get their advice on where they would want you to play. See if they know any other big DJs that are local in that area that you could potentially open for. And I think that might help you out with that. What do you think, Andrew?
I would agree. I would agree.
Yeah. Okay, the next question's from Todd. Can you explain the process of actually signing an artist? What legal documents and what special language is necessary to lock in a deal? Good question.
There's a couple different ways you can do it. The safest way to do it is to have you make sure the manager has a lawyer write up the actual contract and have it notarized, so you know that it was written by a lawyer and it's official. That's the best option. There's really no contract is the same, so there's no special language that's going to be, different from one contract to the other. They will all be different, tailored specifically to you. The actual process is as simple as making sure the manager has a business license and that they have an agency license. And they send you a contract and you sign it, and it's as simple as that. There's no extra steps. You don't have to go to the state and be like, look, I'm getting this manager, here's paperwork. You don't have to do any of that because that's already been done by the manager for you. So all you really have to do is sign a contract. When you get a contract, definitely make sure you send it to your lawyer. Maybe some of your friends that work in the business, because there is a ton of ways to screw people in contracts. And I've had artists that I've sent a contract to, and they've sent it back to me, and they had it edited, trying to get a shorter amount of time and not pay me anything. So you always have to be careful. Always make sure it's in a PDF format or hard copy paper. If you live by the person, I would suggest a hard copy. That way there's no chance of any kind of tampering. And it's a simple signature with a pen, and that's it.
What are typical, like, maybe issues that you've run into with your artists? Like, what are the areas that they kind of maybe want to negotiate more with you on your contracts? Are there specific areas that you refuse to change, maybe? Kind of go into the different areas of the contract.
A contract for an artist that is small to medium, not a superstar, would be 10 to 15% of all their earnings. So, and that's after you sign them. So say they have a residency at a club and they're making $1,000 a night or whatever. If you sign them after that deal was already made, you're not able to touch that as a manager. Mm-hmm. So the standard is 10 to 15%. You should never be paying a manager by the month. It should always be percentage. That way they have to do something, have to reach out and make deals. Otherwise they won't get paid. Because if you're not getting paid, they're not getting paid. Okay. So that's the one thing I would not budge on. I usually keep mine at 10%. If I were to sign somebody much bigger, I would go up to 15, but that can add up pretty quickly.
Yeah. Matt asks, in your experience, what is usually the biggest selling point to a promoter when booking one of your artists?
Well, it's how many people can you bring to the club?
Yeah.
How many people can they bring to the club? And once again, it's their social media is probably the biggest. How many people do you have on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, Instagram? That's really important. If you don't have a big enough following, just simply not going to book you. So that's really important. You should be on your socials posting at least 2 times a day about something that's relevant. So I would say socials is the biggest part.
So Dave was just clarifying his question. He said, meaning from Detroit, but he lives in LA. So I think, it still goes true. Reach out to people who live in Detroit and see, what are the big clubs there? How much would you get paid to play there? Who are the promoters there also? Because, a lot of the shows are booked by the promoter. So you can reach out to those promoters and say, hey, look, I have a big following there, and showing them your statistics, they're going to be more likely to want to book you. And that it would be worth it. I mean, Detroit to LA, it's really not that far. So in terms of your expenses, typically promoters, will handle your hotel and travel, depending on the promoter. But
that should always be handled. I don't let any of my guys take any out of state bookings without hotel and transportation paid for and flight.
Yeah. So I mean, I would say definitely look into that, and find out why are you growing in that area? Maybe you have a super fan there that keeps posting about you. If you can figure that out, that's a huge asset for you, because you already have a super fan who's helping you promote. That's what you want. You want super fans. And the way I like to describe a super fan is really someone who goes to every single show, buys any product that you offer, whether it's t-shirts, limited edition stuff, anything that you do, they're all about it. They share all of your content. They tell everyone about you when you have a new album or track out. Those are the type of people who love you. And to really solidify those people in the beginning, when you're just growing, they're going to be lifelong fans, and you want to give them that special kind of care. And what can you do? What can you offer them as a super fan? Can you bring them in to help you with maybe make them like your assistant or something? They'd probably be ecstatic if you brought them in to help with something, or you got them as part of your street team. Whatever it is, I think can be really beneficial to you, because the best way to grow is to get other people talking about you. You can promote yourself as much as you want and say how amazing you are, but to have someone else tell their friends, oh my God, I met this amazing DJ, that means way more than you just promoting yourself. So that's what I would say about that. We have another question from Todd. Is it frowned upon to ask or even require DJ talent to promote your event? I have had DJs claim they do not promote and think they are too good to promote it. What are your thoughts on this?
I think that's ridiculous. I don't see why the DJ wouldn't want to promote the event they're playing at. That's silly.
That's funny, actually.
If they're doing that, then I wouldn't talk to those DJs anymore, because they're not going to go anywhere. If they think they're too good to promote an event they're playing at, I just don't see that as logical. So to answer your question, definitely not. You shouldn't have to ask. It should just happen.
Yeah. If they're not willing to promote themselves, then, I mean, they probably don't want it. They probably just are doing it as a hobby and just trying to see, maybe I can get a gig, just to look good with their friends. I don't know. That's kind of weird to me. I wouldn't waste your time on someone who isn't even going to put in their work and put in the effort to promote themselves.
Yeah. Don't book them, Todd, because those are the people that are just in it to be cool. They're not even in it for the music. They probably don't even like the music. That's been my experience.
David says, should you keep total different separate social media? Not having came out, but planning to. Sounds funny, thanks. I think he's asking, should you have total separate social media for you as a person than you as an artist? I'm guessing that's what he's saying with his question. I would say yes, you definitely want to separate the two, especially Facebook. You can only have, I think it's 5,000 friends on your personal Facebook page, but on your fan page, those are the two different ones. Your fan page, you can have unlimited amount of likes, and you definitely want to separate them.
You also want to make sure that it's not a straight fan page. You want a musician page or a band page.
Right.
It makes a big difference, especially when you're getting Facebook verified.
And I would say also just some tips when it comes to social media. You want to always try to have a picture of your face. Typically, a face is going to be more engaging with someone, even if it's, not the greatest picture of your face. You want to have an image that's your face and not your logo. Yeah, your logo can work, and it's important because you want people to know what your brand is. But you can put that in your Facebook kind of banner, the top part. You can put it in other places. But in terms of your actual profile picture, you still want it to be of your face. That's, I think, really important.
I would completely agree with that.
Yeah. And what other tips can I give? I would say, like, in terms of your Instagram and your Twitter, your SoundCloud, you definitely want them to be separate. And don't forget, like, you need to have a website. I think it's super important. So many people skip this step because of so many other social media channels, but you know, tomorrow Facebook could be gone. Something could happen. They could delete your page. You know, they have control. You want to be able to have your own control of your own stuff. So I always tell artists, you know, you need to have a website. You need to direct people to your website in some way. That should be your brand. That's what you want people to know, who you are, what you do, and what you're all about. I see a lot of artists don't really do this. And, you know, some of them are so massive that they just kind of, I guess it's not their strategy any longer, but I think it's a big mistake. That's just my opinion. Okay, we have another question. Matt says, how do you usually work payments? Do promoters pay you and then you cut their artists 85 to 90 or vice versa? Is it usually a check or have you been paid through PayPal before or wire?
I usually almost never accept PayPal. I almost exclusively deal with cash, but I will accept a check, a wire, or a bank transfer. Yeah, the promoter manager and the manager pays the artist. You never want to have the artist hand any kind of money, just for the fact that then it goes on their tax return. And if you're a manager, you should have an LLC or a corporation. So it should be going into your actual corporate accounts, not your personals. They should always stay separate.
Okay, so we have about 5 minutes left. If anyone has any other questions, please put them in now so we can get to answer them. And then I will pop in the free bonus that we have. So we have a question from Matt. He says, do you control your artist's social media or do you leave that up to them? Or do you both have admin privileges?
Always. We always consult each other before we post anything. I would definitely never let the artist just handle their social media because it's really all about the wording. And we're kind of upping your image for you as far as that. You shouldn't even have to worry about your social media. You should just hand that over to the manager as long as they know what they're doing with it. And all you should, at the end of the day, Matt, all you should be doing is making music and playing your shows, nothing else. They should be handling the rest.
I have a totally different view on that. I think that, you know, as an artist, you want to be dialed in to your fans. You want to make sure that your brand and your message and what you're all about is consistent. So yes, you can hand it over to someone who understands all of that, but you should still be posting your own stuff, even if it's just like a question or a quote or you know, asking your audience, you know, what did they like about your show? You know, really dialing into what do your fans like and don't like is really important. So I personally feel that you should have some type of hand in your social media. When you get to a certain point.
I wasn't saying I take it over. I do most of the posting. I consult before I post anything.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, the manager should always have the last say because they're looking out for your best interests.
Right.
And there's no emotion being put into it. So I'm not going to just post something and be like, no, we're doing it. Absolutely. I'll be like, look, this is what I want to post. What do you think? Yeah, cool. All right, go ahead and post the answer.
And also,
but they shouldn't have to be worried about handling their social media, though. You should be talking to them and working with them and you doing it. So they have time to focus on the music.
Right. You should definitely like try and plan at least a week in advance. Maybe have like a weekly meeting with them and go over, you know, what are we going to post about this week? When are we posting? And you definitely need some communication as well so that the artist can respond. Let's say you ask a question, the artist is able to be on social media at that time to answer questions maybe for 5 minutes. if it's a question, you know, because I always see this so many times, like fans freak out when you message them and answer their question directly. And they just love that because you make them feel special. And the more you can make your fans feel special, the more they're going to stay connected to you, the more they're going to help promote you and get your name out there. So it's all
That's
just
one
about
thing
planning.
I do want to add. Denice is absolutely right. If a fan messages one of my artists on Facebook, I absolutely let them handle that. I will never respond to those. I'll let them know, hey, you got a message. I usually stay out of the messages unless it's something for business, a booking or another artist wanting to do a collaboration. Then I'll hop in. But if it's a fan, I won't touch that. You should always put your personal touch on that.
Yeah. All right, last question we have is from Jeff. He says, does label size really matter?
Well, yes and no. You shouldn't be worrying about big labels as a small artist anyways. You should start off releasing your music for free, and then build into releasing it on the small labels and then medium labels. The only time label size really matters nowadays is because the bigger labels have a ton of money to pump into you. So say you have a release and they're going to spend $10,000 on the promotion, get you a music video and all that. That's really it. You could release with a nobody label and chart on Beatport and that track could be a hit. Labels don't matter as much anymore. What the labels are there for is for if you want to have the massive money behind you. That's my personal opinion. What do you think, Denise?
Yeah, I think so many times artists say, oh, you know, I want to be on Spinnin'. I want to be on, like, you know, the big labels. And realistically, it's probably not going to happen for your first time being signed. You know, you have to have to work your way up, start from the bottom, show that someone actually believes in your music and has signed you for one track, maybe to 3 different labels. I personally believe that you're way better off nowadays to release your music on different labels, not be locked into one company, because
Absolutely.
you're going to hit more markets by hitting those different fan bases. Spinnin' has a different fan base. Revealed has a different fan base. Armada has a different fan base. All these different people are coming, might be a super fan of those labels, and they might never see you. So, you know, if you start out with a smaller label, prove that you're worth signing, prove that you have great music, release it on that label, and then search to release it on another label. Maybe that has more fans, has a better following. You know, seek out those labels and try and work your way up. And then once you get to a point where you think like a bigger label will like a track or sign you, try and make a relationship with them. You know, sending them a cold email is probably not going to work. But if you have a relationship, yeah, it's never probably going to work. You have a relationship with someone, you know, maybe even it's just an intern. I mean, literally, you know, there's a lot of companies out there that have so many interns working for them, and they're the ones who are the ones picking who gets signed, and, you know, they bring it to the upper management. So you can do it that way by really becoming friends with someone inside the doors. You're much more likely for something to happen. And if you've already gotten tracks out on other labels to prove that you're worthy and that you have something and someone already has believed in you, your chances go way up. Is that what you think too, Andrew?
Yeah, don't ever sign an exclusivity deal. The only time you want to do that is if it's with Warner Brothers or Sony. End of story.
Yeah.
And most of the time, 9 out of 10, they don't even do exclusivity deals anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, they never know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen with you either, a year from now, 2 years from now. All right.
Those are dangerous too, because if you get in some kind of argument with the label, or they just want to sign you just to put you in a closet so you don't threaten their art by releasing better music than they do, doing an exclusivity deal can be a career ender.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, I wanted to give you this time just to kind of promote your artists that you're working with right now, tell them where to go, what you want them to do. to help support you. And then I'm going to pop in your free bonus offer.
All right. So everybody can, I'm going to send everybody a link here in a second. And it's our website. All the information, if you click on any of our artists on there, it'll go to their personal Facebook pages. And then at the bottom of the website, we also have links to our Facebook and Twitter. Mm-hmm. So feel free to check them out and let me know what you think. The other thing we do have is I also do manage photographers and videographers. So we have Jukes Photos and Jordan Billings Photography, my two main video guys. So make sure to check them out too. They do. They don't have a huge following on social media, but in photography that doesn't really matter. So just go ahead and check out their Facebooks and go to their YouTubes, check out their videos.
Cool. All right. So guys, we created a guide. Hopefully not everyone's gotten it yet. But basically what it is 14 proven ways to meet your favorite DJ. These are all proven methods that we've researched and gotten, and took us a long time to create it. We've got a bunch of fan pictures as well to just prove that, a lot of these stories came from these people of how they actually were able to meet their favorite artist. A lot of times as an artist yourself or a producer, if you can get in contact and make relationships with other DJs, that's a great way really to bring you in the doors as well. And I think the best strategy there, in my eyes, is to build that relationship with them, target specific people who have a similar sound, who are on labels that you really are interested in. There's no sense in building a relationship right away from the beginning with someone who has a completely different genre or sound than you. So you got 3 minutes left to get the offer before it goes away. If you guys have any other questions that you wanted to talk about, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I can always email you, or Andrew can always email you the answers. And yeah.
If anybody has any questions, I'm going to throw my email here, and feel free to email me. I will respond.
And for anyone who doesn't know about the magazine, I manage EDM World Magazine. I started it, and it's really simple for you to get to. All you have to do is go into the App Store on your phone. It's for Android and Apple. Search EDM World Magazine, and the app is free to download. All you have to do, download the app, open it. There's a welcome letter that should come up for Apple users. Android users, it won't come up, but you can just check out the different issues there. We do have a free issue that you can check out. And also, if you go to our website, we are offering a free 1-month subscription. So technically, you can get 2 free issues. And check it out. If you like it, please subscribe, and please leave us a review. Reviews really help us. They boost our ranking. And it's just, it lets us know what we're doing good, what we're not doing so good in. And always feel free to send me an email. I love connecting with everyone one-on-one, just to dial more into who are our fans, what do you guys want to hear more about. And this is a new series that I'm starting called Guru Guidance. The reason why I'm starting it is because I feel like there's so many awesome people that I know, and doing interviews is great, but to be able to have that face-to-face connection, live Q&A, I think really steps it up a notch. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let's see the countdown. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds left to get your offer. If you have any problems with the offer, please just email me. I'll make sure everything works properly. Sometimes there's glitches, but I think that's it. Andrew, do you have any other parting words?
No, just feel free to email me or message me on Facebook anytime you want. I'm pretty open to talking to people and giving them advice, even outside of these things. So my Facebook link is in there, and so is my email if you check the chat box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're always looking for people as well to join the magazine. We really pride ourselves on bringing on people who are really into the music. They're passionate about it, and I love connecting with other people who are passionate about music. especially, you know, people who turn to music because it's either saved, changed, or transformed their life. It did for me, and I'll share my story at another time. But it is on the welcome letter if you download the app. I'll go into more detail in another video, but this was mostly just about Andrew, and we just wanted to get the ball rolling and see what everyone, you know, thought about this whole new idea, and I think it's gone off pretty well. So yeah, let's see the offer you have. Oh, it's already done. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. We look forward to doing our next Guru Guidance episode. I'm sure to bring another fantastic person to the table. I'm going to try and do it every week or every 2 weeks, as much as I can, because I really like to bring as much value to the table as possible. My passion really lies in helping artists grow and develop. So the more that I can do, the better. All right, guys. Well, I hope you have a great night, and thank you so much for tuning in. See you later.
Bye, guys.